Recording in progress.
Okay, I'm calling this meeting back to order. First, again, just respectfully acknowledging that this meeting is taking place on the traditional territory of the Sinawas First Nation. For people that are just watching the live stream now, just noting that there has been additional information accepted for item 9C and 12E. And then for everybody's benefit, that we do have a few panelists that will be online or on the call or Zoom call for public input questions that council may have of them at that time. So, and I'll cover that off when we get to that portion of our agenda. So we are on to item 7 of our agenda. So this is the consent agenda. We have 2 items listed. I'll simply make the motion that the April 6, 2022 regular council meet, oh sorry, I've jumped a line, that the recommendations listed for items 7A and 7B in the consent agenda be approved. So seconded by Councillor Gesselbrecht. Actually, sorry, just going to move to call in a question. All those in favor and opposed? That is carried unanimously.
Yes, so, yeah, I apologize. I had a quick question with consent agenda B.
Okay.
Can I make that now without removing it from the consent?
I'm not following. So you have a...
I just had a quick question on a resolution. I could save it for the council updates.
Well, I think it'd probably be more in order to deal with it now. So, so again, it sounds like Councillor Savage wanted 7B removed. So we'll go back to that. So I'll call the question on the consent agenda for just 7A and with 7B being removed. So all those in favor and opposed? Okay, that's carried. So now we're on to 7B as a removed item. So this is just a summary of council resolutions. So go ahead, Councillor Savage, if you have a question.
Yes, thank you. Through chair to staff, I'm just wondering what happened to this motion, June 16th, 2021, moved and seconded that staff update traffic and parking regulations bylaw number 28, 2004, truck routes for vehicles exceeding 13,500 kilograms for council's consideration. And it was carried unanimously, and in both talks in the committee and during the council meeting, it was made clear that it would be for all construction traffic. If there's no one can answer that now, then perhaps council could be emailed the answer to that, please.
Sorry, could you just tell me which page of the agenda that's on?
Even just the resolution number, Councillor Savage?
It's, I didn't see the resolution on this resolution summary. That was the problem.
The date?
It was passed June 16th, 2021.
Oh, sorry, this is the 2022 list. I can pull it up just a second, sorry. My recollection is that it shows that it is still outstanding. There are several things from 2021 that are outstanding.
Yep.
And that the intent was to include it with a bylaw rewrite. But let me just get to the... Sorry. some reason it's not.
Yeah, that's fine.
China.
Perhaps it's more expeditious just to email council at maybe when Director Spears could give us an update. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Gustabrook, you had your hand up? No? Okay. All right, so we'll move to calling the question on 7B. So this is just voting on accepting this for information. So all those in favor and opposed, noting that's carried unanimously. Yeah, I think we do have a 1 second lag between this and the live stream, but. All right, so that takes us on to public input period. So from what I understand from staff, we have nobody registered remotely. We have one. Oh, we do now. Okay. So
We have Mr. Bruce Ward.
all right. So I'll read my little preamble here. So persons recognized by the chair must first state their name and address for the record, may speak once for up to 2 minutes unless council resolves otherwise, and are limited to providing comment regarding items listed on the council agenda for this meeting. And this excludes any public hearing topics, which there are none. Comments must be directed to the chair and not to be directed to any individual council member, staff, or the audience, and must not include personnel issues. So, Mr. Bruce Ward, go ahead.
Hello, this is Donald Bruce Ward. My address is 5880 163 Street, Surrey, British Columbia. It's in regards to a notice of proposal for development variance. I didn't wish or don't wish at this time to speak in addition to the memo that I forwarded. So I don't have anything further to add than what was already in the letter that I forwarded.
Okay, thank you.
That would be item 9C.
Yeah, 9C. All right. And through the council, just so we're aware, we have 3 panelists on the call this evening. We have, in relation to item 9A, Mr. Toby Seward. So if there's any questions about 9A, this would be the time to ask those questions for public input.
Does he want to talk?
Unless, Mr. Seward, did you have any input into this evening's meeting?
Thank you. I'll be very brief.
So go ahead.
Mayor, thanks for the opportunity to speak. I'm the owner's representative. I live at 1820 Argyle Avenue in Nanaimo, BC. I'm talking to item 9A, the proposal to rezone the property to R5 zoning. This matter came before council previously, and staff noticed that there was an error in the legal description, so it's coming back again for council's consideration, first and second readings. The proposal is to construct, to rezone the property to allow future subdivision of 8 lots. The minimum lot size permitted under the proposed zoning would be 960 square meters. We're proposing to go larger than that, between approximately 1,200 and 1,400 square meters. We agree with the staff report and the recommendation, and we request council consider approving the first and second readings of this bylaw. And I'm certainly here to answer any questions if council members wish to ask any questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for keeping that very brief and concise. Through to members of council, are there any questions for the applicant's representative? Okay, hearing none or seeing none, we'll move on. So we have a panelist for 9C, which has to do with the development variance permit application for 5020 Broadridge Place. And I believe we have Ken Tenui and as the builder, and I don't know if there's anybody else on the call through the staff.
Regarding
Paul,
that.
Or
excuse me, Mr. Mayor.
yes.
Paul Sandu is the property owner, but Ken will be representing Paul on this particular item.
Okay, sure. So is there any public input this evening from the builder's representative? Okay, hearing none. Is there any questions from, oh, go ahead. Do we have?
Hi. Hi, my name's Ken Tange. I live at 574 Hazelwood Place in Qualicum Beach, British Columbia. I'm here on behalf of Paul. I'm the designer of the home for Lot 2 in the Foothills development. We've come forward with an application because due to the, I'm not sure if anyone of staff has, or rather the council has visited the lot. It is a very deep hole in which to try to build a home in. Part of the package that I sent forward was to show you the site plan, which would be great if it was a front to back grade, but because the grade changes as a harsh angle diagonally through the property, it imposes a great hardship of about 38 feet of drop from one point to another. Our initial driveway that the developer proposed to us, he had recognized that that driveway wouldn't work. And the suggestion was to move the driveway down farther on the property. So in doing so, we've consulted with Andrew Walker of Tetra Tech and the surveyors, and just to see what would be viable. We still could not meet the grades in which were required to make a safe driveway approach, with that being a flat approach and then the grade down and then to a 20-foot sort of flat area in front of the garages. So this is the reason for the application. We are currently below the street level, as indicated on my page 2, which shows, I'm not sure if you had a color copy, but there's a magenta line that shows the curb line that goes diagonally across the house. And it there also shows that the current ridge height is at or below the height at the corner of the property. So by coming up the 2 meters, this would help us achieve a safer grade. Plus, it wouldn't infringe upon anyone else's view because we are so far down in a hole that we can't see. We could still see over the home if we stood at the sidewalk. So that's pretty much what I'm trying to help Paul show here.
Okay, thank you for that. So I'm going to open it up to council for questions. So go ahead, Councillor Brack.
Thank you. Yes, there was no elevation diagrams in our material that I could make any sense out of, so I did drive up to Broadridge, and I parked on the street, and what I saw was a backhoe at the street level, and then quite a ways down below, I saw what looked like a pad where shot rock had been flattened out. Where are the buildings going? Is the garage attached to the house? And if not, where is it going to be and where is the house going to be?
If I may address that. In the package, the first page shows the site plan. I'm not sure if you have that. So the page 1 of the package, if there's 3 pages there. There should be a site plan which shows the garage as close as to the property line, up as close to the front as we could get it. This has basically a 6-meter drop from 198 meters down to 192 meters is where the garage is. So it made any form of garage access from the original implied access not even attainable. And the house is predominantly facing the street, but also at an angle to help. I had to rotate the garage in order to go from a street entry to a side entry to make even the grades work currently. And we found that by doing side entry would help us, but it wasn't enough. So, and the difference of grade from the back corner of the house to the front, which is at 180, I could show it on screen, but it's the bottom grade. I know you probably can't see it, is the bottom.
If I could just interrupt, Ken.
Yeah.
I can't see anything from these. My question was, if you're parked there on the street, where's the house going? The 20 meters down below where I see a pad, or is it going to be built up at the street level?
No, it's not. It won't be at street level. It'll still be below street level. That bottom corner pad is a seismic support for the grade for the basement in that corner. I've tried to design the house in such a way that the garage is at as close to the curb as we could get, but still having be able to make an access work with sort of a soft switchback. And then the house itself is rotated so that I could make the house work with the current setback from the riparian line. And that bottom corner is the basement level. So it's a house is stepped in construction. So we have a basement level in 1/3. The center section is a crawl space. And then the main kitchen, which is behind the garage, is at garage level, which is at 191 meters. So the top of the street access point would have been at 198 meters. So I have a 7 meter difference in height. Does that answer your question?
Somewhat, thank you.
Okay, so I note that Director Limshu's got his hand up. Are you planning on doing a screen share? Yeah, okay,
Yes,
so go
so-
ahead.
So I have a bit of a presentation, and I was thinking we would wait until the item actually comes up on the agenda, and I can walk you through the diagrams that the applicant's referring to, and then we can speak to it in more detail at that point in time, if that makes sense.
And Mr. Tanguay, are you going to continue to remain on the call?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so if council has any questions at that time following Director Limshu's presentation, then that's probably in order. So is there any additional questions for Mr. Tanguay? And sorry I pronounced your name wrong earlier. It's misspelled on my cheat sheet here, so.
That's okay.
Under 12D of our agenda, we have Mr. Mark Taylor from Rotary. I don't know if council has any questions with respect to that agenda item. Or if there's an introduction, if you wish, Mr. Taylor.
Sure. My name is Mark Taylor with the Rotary Club of Lantzville, but my address is 8038 Lantzville Road here. And we are interested in taking on at least a portion of the work at the Lavender Park beachfront park there, mainly in the less controversial areas, if you like, where the existing park benches are, to do some work to help with that, and also help with the existing grade problems that happen behind the pump station there.
And through to council, any specific questions for Mr. Taylor? Okay, hearing and seeing none, and we'll move to public input from the gallery. You do have one member of the public in the gallery. And again, name and address for the record, please. And you just need to turn your microphone on. Yeah.
There we go. Brian Blood, 7075 Colette Road. And I'd like to make comments on item 12B, the leak adjustment request, 7122 Dickinson Road. An unfortunate water leak on the property of one Lantzville resident is not treated as a financial windfall by other district residents. It is understandable, although regrettable, that the administrative machinery of a corporate entity might see it as such, but that is not how compassionate neighbors in a community see it. I remember the philosophy of the old improvement district and the fledgling municipality as voiced by trustee and councillor Joe Bratkowski with the motto, neighbors helping neighbors, as the raison d'etre at the center of municipal organization. Now we have the administrative machinery coldly recommending to elected council that they deny a request for a leak adjustment from residents who have always been good neighbors and responsible citizens. There are several other reasons than simple consideration and humanity in addressing this request. First is the actual cost to the district for pumping and supplying this amount of water does not equal the billed amount and should not be seen as such. The Director of Public Works acknowledged this on a previous occasion for another property. We are billed based on a complex set of factors that means this overage amount is not a net loss to the district that must be made up for by other residents. To treat one resident's misfortune as a zero-sum cash windfall is wrong, and we can afford to be humane. Second is that this property was flooded in November by a blockage of the Wiles Creek culvert under Dickinson Road, which caused most of the creek volume to cross the road and cascade through this very property. No lasting damage was done as far as I know, but the stress of that day is the responsibility of the district, to which I can attest and supply photographic evidence, and that responsibility must be worth something. Still, most importantly, this request must be seen through compassionate eyes in the spirit of Lantzville as a place
And
with
that's
the
your
district.
time, Mr. Blood. 2 minutes.
Sorry?
That's your time.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Neighbors helping neighbors. You can do that.
Noting that we have no additional public input for the evening, we'll move on to item 9 of our agenda. So under legislative matters, we have under bylaw number 302. And go ahead, Councillor Gusselbrack.
Yes, I'd like to move this motion. It's in two parts.
So I believe we have to take them separately. Yeah, so if you want to make the first one first, go ahead.
Thank you. Bylaw 302, that the District of Lantzville zoning bylaw number 180, 2020, amendment 6935 Dickinson Road, bylaw number 302, 2022, be given first and second readings.
And do we have a seconder? So noting Councillor Proctor as the seconder. So as the mover, Councillor Gusselbrack, you go ahead.
Thank you. As noted in our report tonight, this particular application came before council some time ago. I believe it was at our September 8th, 2021, and then November 17th, 2021 meetings. And it was noted at that point that there was something wrong in the notice, that a legal description was wrong. So as an abundance of caution, staff advised that we should rescind the first and second reading and have the proponent bring this back at a later date, which the proponent has now brought back for first and second reading. I support this motion.
And through to Councillor Proctor as the seconder, if you wish.
I don't have anything to add to that at this time.
And through to the rest of council, start speakers list. So Councillor Savage, go ahead.
Yes, I have 6 concerns, please, and then a couple of proposed amendments, which I'll probably save for my second turn. And these concerns address also rezoning residential land, which this is. So number one, we are now only being offered up to $10,000 for a speed reader, yet I believe we were told it would cost $15,000. Number two, OCP 5.2.73, the district states the district may apply a bonus density in residential areas outside special plan areas without amendment to this plan, meaning the OCP plan, where the development plan includes parkland acceptable to the district in addition to the required 5% dedication required under the Local Government Act and a community amenity contribution. So not only are we getting zero parkland instead of more than 5%, we are getting cash in lieu for only 5% parkland. This is the same amount one would get if this was just a subdivision with no rezoning. That's the whole point of rezoning. Number three, I keep being told the OCP map, there is no star for proposed parkland on this piece of land, yet there was no parkland star on the Med property, and it got parkland, and there was no star anywhere on the waterfront, yet we got a waterfront park. You might say, well, this is because a waterfront park is a council priority and supported in the OCP, but so are trails, exactly the same circumstance. So the OCP does not prohibit parkland in places that don't have a parkland star on the map. Also, Lot A, Dickinson Road, had a proposed trail shown on the OCP map, but no extra strip of land was acquired to create a trail there as supported by the OCP. So OCP principles shouldn't be used selectively, they should be consistent. At this rate, it means we'll end up with no trails. Number 4, the council's strategic priorities. 3.4 states acquire as much land as possible through development for the district. This priority is being continually not adhered to in Sabrina, Lot A, Dickinson Road, and now this application. Number 5, the staff report states acquiring smaller strips of areas of parkland on many different properties is contrary to good park planning principles and would result in significant higher liability and maintenance implications for the district. Yet smaller strips of parkland are exactly what trails are. To say trails are not good park planning principles is a direct contradiction to the OCP, an age-friendly plan which support trails. Also, small strips of lands is the definition of road right-of-ways in front of every resident's house. These strips are for the most part maintained by residents, which is exactly what I'm proposing, to widen the road right-of-way in subdivisions through parkland dedication in order to have future trails. And in the meantime, residents can maintain and use it. These widened right-of-ways would be maintained by residents and would not be garbage dumps or tent camps. And number 6, in negotiations, all the district asks for is $3,000 for each additional lot acquired through rezoning. There are 14 amenities listed in our amenities document, but we continually ask for only $3,000 for just some of the lots. The staff report states anything more than this would be unreasonable considering development costs. I disagree in this application. If lots sell for, say, $600,000 each, that's a gross income for $5.4 million. If there are 8 lots, that'll be $4.8 million. Yet we only ask for $3,000 per lot for a total of $24,000. So I'll leave that for now, and I've just got a couple of amendments. Please, my next turn, thank you.
Okay, additional speakers on this item. Noting that we're just at first and second reading, and this is also subject to public hearing. Director Coates?
And on that topic, we've talked about this before, that there's not supposed to be any debate at first reading. We probably should have, as soon as there was discussion, called for a division of the question so that it's one reading, giving it first reading, so that that could be done and put to bed, and then go with a second reading, if particularly if there's going to be some proposed amendments.
So through the council, by unanimous consent, to go back to just simply, with respect to this particular bylaw or zoning bylaw amendment, is to treat it as first reading. So unless there's anybody opposed, we'll just treat this as first reading only at this time. So it's just introduction. Okay, seeing nobody opposed, we'll just treat this as first reading. So I'm going to move to calling the question on first reading. So all those in favor and opposed, noting that Councillor Savage is opposed, first reading carries. So now we're on to second reading. So did you want to make that motion again, Councillor Gusselbrecht?
Yes, thank you. Bylaw 302, the District of Lantzville zoning bylaw number 180-2020, amendment 6935 Dickinson Road, bylaw number 302-2022, be given second reading.
And do we have a seconder to that? Seconded by Councillor Proctor. Now we're discussing second reading. So through to the mover and then to the
Yes,
second.
thank you. Through the chair to staff, could staff comment on the extension of Owen Road and what staff envisions for that?
And through that, Director Limshu, go ahead.
Your worship, through the council. Yeah, simply put, as you can see on attachment 6 of your package, it's simply a road extension of Owen Road. And the idea is that Owen Road would eventually get pushed through to tie into Shook Road. So it provides another access point onto Owen Road. There is an existing covenant on the adjacent property. So when that property owner does decide to develop, at that point in time, we will secure the remainder of the Owen Road extension, so that road can be completed. This has been on the books, so to speak, for a number of years.
Follow-up is that important from a fire suppression, from a fire point of view, also getting the fire department in there if there's a problem?
It is. In best case scenario, you always want to have more than one point of access into a neighborhood. Without that extension, Owen Road is effectively one long cul-de-sac. So there's one way in, one way out. The extension of Owen Road and tying into Shook Road gives two ways of accessing in and out of that neighborhood.
One final, through the chair to staff. Once the final parcel decides to do something and Owen Road is open to Shook, that will provide a pathway, a direct pathway for the residents in the Roslyn, Owen Road area to access Pioneer Park with all of its various amenities.
Certainly, it provides access through to Shook and through to the park in that general neighborhood. As far as the actual road standard goes, forgive me, but I don't recall the actual standard to which the road will be constructed to. Certainly, we do have standards within our subdivision development services bylaw, and they relate to the level of service that roads are to provide. So in some cases, it does require sidewalks. In other cases, there is no sidewalk, but certainly there's extra pavement along the side. And again, it depends on the context in which the subdivision is being created.
Okay. Through to the seconder, Councillor Proctor.
I don't have anything at this time.
Okay. I was just going to add, with respect to the access to that area, so on Lot A and Dickinson Road, which is near where I live, there's already construction underway for a road, so there will be access from Dickinson. And eventually, when that other lot running parallel with Shook develops, then there'll be essentially 3 points of access through to that area. So I guess even better for fire suppression. So additional speakers on second reading. So Councillor Savage, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Basically, what I'm trying to achieve here is development only happens once. Prices are so high now, it's really important the community gets enough from development so the community's stable and financially on track. We still have obligations to extend water infrastructure to those that need it, and so on. So I just feel that it's important we get from every development the maximum we can, especially with prices so high and the profit so high from development to look after our community. That's what we're supposed to be doing. So my first amendment, please, is that this rezoning application be referred back to staff to explore changing the amenity of $3,000 to, the amenity of $3,000 per additional lot for a total of $24,000 to a lump sum amenity of $50,000 to go towards community water infrastructure per section 20K of the community amenities document. And I gave a copy of that to Director Coates. I'll read it again if you like.
Yeah, go ahead.
This rezoning application be referred back to staff to explore changing the amenity of $3,000 per additional lot for a total of $24,000 to a lump sum amenity of $50,000 to go towards community water infrastructure per section 20K of the community amenities document.
Okay, so through to Director Coates. I'm guessing you have a procedural
Ye-
question
Yes,
or
just
input?
for clarity, this is not an amendment. It's a motion to refer the motion on the floor to staff. But on the subject of the of what you would like it referred to staff for, clearly the purpose of the referral is for, to seek out greater community amenities, if I'm correct on that. And we've talked about this many times, that the district is prohibited from selling zoning. Council can, at a policy level, establish community amenities to guide staff in the work that they do. What council should refrain from doing is negotiating that during a rezoning or trying to up the ante, in fact, selling zoning. So we've mentioned before that if council wishes to, before the next rezoning comes to them, to review their community amenities contributions document. Council approved this document in June of 2020. And it's always open to council to come back, have that document brought back, and have it updated to what council wishes. I think Councillor Savage has identified, what is currently in the document is $3,000 per additional lot, and he would like it increased to $50,000. But that is something council should do, not as a sale of zoning, not in relation to a specific development, but as a policy decision separately.
Okay.
Yeah, if I may explain, please.
So let's get it seconded and then we can open it for discussion. So do we have a seconder to the proposed referral motion? Okay, I will second it. So noting Mayor Swain seconding. So go ahead, Councillor Savage.
Yes, thank you. I would just say that we have the speed reader, and that was done. That was specifically requested during, I believe it was after second reading. And the way I've phrased it here is to cover that aspect of it. We're not directing that has to happen. All we're asking is for staff to explore this idea of what I'm suggesting is the key there. And just like we did last time, we were just simply suggesting that it be explored. We're not dictating anything or selling zoning. I'm absolutely aware of that. And it is in the amenity. I'm picking another amenity instead of the 3,000 per additional lot. And I cited 20K of the community amenities document, which cites contributing to water infrastructure. So I'm just picking another amenity, that's all. And I had another suggestion too to explore. I don't know if I do that in a separate thing or not, but at any rate, as I say, the whole idea of this is we need funds for water infrastructure to get water to the winds. With the land going for so high, we got to take advantage of development. We've already created a capital reserve fund for water infrastructure. So we have a place to place these funds, and this is one way to do it. So let's really think of the community when it comes time to negotiating, suggesting, however you want to phrase it. So we're not getting more than that 5% parkland. That's one way to look at it. We're only getting cash in lieu for 5%. So let's make up somewhat for that with something a little more healthy for the community in terms of which amenity we picked there. So that's for my first item of suggestion. It's just going from 24,000 to a lump sum of 50,000 to benefit those that have been waiting for water for so long. I think that's a reasonable request. Thank you.
Okay, so I have, as a seconder, I'll forego my turn at this point, but we have Councillor Wilson and then Councillor Gilsabrad.
So I appreciate what Councillor Savage is saying, but as far as I am aware, I was under the understanding that as a council or as a district, we cannot, once we have our community amenity contribution document in place, we can't go outside that as far as increasing the amount per lot. We have to approach it differently is what I was in the understanding. I thought that was, I heard a previous planner tell us that that would be unlawful. Can I just get a clarification from staff on that?
Through to Director Limshu, if you want to take a stab at that.
Thank you, Your Worship. I will take a stab. So the whole point of the community amenity contribution policy is to provide guidance to staff.
Sorry, point of privilege. I'm having a real hard time understanding.
Can you hear me now?
It's just very choppy. Is that my computer or is that just everyone experiencing the same?
Not sure. Can everybody else hear me?
It's really staticky, like that's, yeah.
It's really staticky.
I'll speak louder if that helps. How's that?
I can make out what you're saying, but it is staticky, so.
So the whole point of the community amenity contribution policy is to provide guidance to staff with respect to having discussions with applicants for potential development, and also to provide some guidance to the applicants themselves. When folks make application to rezone or amend the bylaws, they understand that they're coming to the community and they're making a request to ask for something, to upzone their land to allow for subdivision, as is the case here. And so, there's usually a discussion, a back and forth discussion as to how, what it'll take for the community to consider their application. And so that's what the policy is all about, is to provide some guidance to staff and provide some direction to the applicants. It's also kind of used as a way of making sure that there's some fairness applied to all the applications that come forward. So, in the staff report, it talks about the provision of $3,000 per lot and the provision for the speed reader. And if you go back and you look at recent files, recent rezoning files, and probably the most recent is the property next door on Parcel A that's currently under development. Similar discussions were had with that applicant as well, where they provided $3,000 per lot. And I believe there were offsite improvements on the road in addition to that. And so, what's outlined in the staff report and what's being provided for the applicant is comparable to what was previously accepted by council. To Director Coates' point, if council is of the impression that perhaps the policy should be revisited, then that is council's call and council's discretion. As a council, you can revisit that policy and amend it as you see fit at some future date. But bear in mind, the idea is to provide guidance not only to staff, but also to the applicants so that there's some understanding in terms of expectation as to what would be required for approaching the municipality with respect to amending a bylaw.
Do you have any follow-ups, Councillor Wilson? And just through to Director Limshu, it seemed like it was better when you were further back from your microphone.
Oh,
yeah. Yeah, anyways. Councillor Wilson, did you have any follow-ups? Your hand is still up. Okay. Go ahead, Councillor Gusbrock.
Thank you. I want to keep in mind that this is first and second reading. According to our bylaws for subdivision to amend the OCP and the zoning bylaw, there will be a public process. So once again, I want to keep an open mind. I want to, I've seen this application, but I want to hear from the public. I think that's important. So I won't express any views other than through the chair to staff that to address Councillor Savage's concern with respect to supplying water to everybody, yes, that's definitely one of council's strategic priorities, and has probably been so since this community was incorporated. But maybe Director Limshu can just confirm that we'll be collecting development cost charges, DCCs, from each of the new lots of the 8 lots. And currently, our DCCs for single residential is, I believe, a little more than 17,000. And of course, we can amend, staff or council can amend the DCCs from year to year. So we'll be getting DCCs, which can be used for general community water. It's not limited to this particular subdivision. And secondly, once these new lots are built on, or even before, we will be collecting taxes. And taxes go into a general fund, which also can be used for the various strategic priorities of council, including extension of water to those who need it. Am I correct in those assumptions?
Mr. Mayor, through the council, you're correct. Development cost charges will be applied to the new lots that are created through subdivision. And the development cost charges for a single family lot under the current bylaw is 17,700. So just a shade under 18,000 per lot. And the DCCs will cover things as improvements for water, sewer, drainage, parks, and roads. And that makes up the 17,700 for each parcel.
Okay, through the rest of the council. I just had a few comments myself through to Director Limshu. With respect to the DCCs, with the sewer DCC portion, is that, I can't remember when the RDN increase is going to take effect, but will that also increase that amount, or is that because of the timing of this application is the 17,000 change locked in?
So the 17,700 that I refer to are just simply the District of Lantzville development cost charges. So those are the charges that come directly into the District of Lantzville. The development cost charges for sewer for the regional district is a separate DCC that's charged to the applicant over and above the 17,700. So we will collect that amount, that new amount, whatever that is, on behalf of the regional district, and in turn forward that payment onto the regional district.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. In terms of the referral motion itself, and in terms of examining whether or not there's the right level of community amenity contributions, I understand the intent of this. You know, the one thing I always is top of mind for myself is that the district in Lantzville expended almost $2 million to make development possible in Lantzville. So that was the enactment of the water agreement. So that was 1.3 million, and then nearly whatever the balance, making up almost $2 million, was the construction of the infrastructure for the Nanaimo Lantzville water connection or interconnection. So without that, there'd be no development happening, or it'd be very limited development happening in the district of Lantzville. I've always looked at it as, you know, in terms of, with respect to that, you know, we're enabling it as a municipality, you know, how is that, you know, going to be reciprocated back? to some degree. And so anyways, that's always top of mind. The other part is, with your creation of development or new lots and so forth, what kind of pressures that puts on the rest of the district in Lantzville and even going right down into the neighborhoods itself. So, when we look at the Dickinson Lot A, the natural, I think, community amenity contribution for that one was putting in some kind of traffic calming, as that stretch of Dickinson Road has been forever a area of concern for speeding and so forth. And again, with respect to the access point for this application, it's likely going to be through that lot A on Dickinson, or it can come through, I guess, Roslyn as well. But let's face it, I think people will be going up that new road off of Dickinson to access these lots. So, so that's how I can kind of make that connection in terms of this, the speeder reader being a suitable community amenity contribution. Because again, there's going to be these additional pressures put on that neighborhood. How can this development be used in a way to better that area and so forth, and be beneficial? How's the development itself going to be beneficial to the broader community or neighborhood? So anyways, I understand what Councillor Savage is driving at. The other thing we have to look at is in the short period of time, last couple of years, real estate has definitely gone way up. And with respect to the $3,000 per additional lot created, that is probably on the light end of things. I think most people would agree with that. However, I think probably the best course of action would be to review our policy and look at changing that. But to date, that's what we've applied to other development applications, and the one that's essentially next door to this one. And in terms of fairness, I probably don't think it's appropriate at this time to send this back to staff to examine the level of community amenity contributions, even though I don't think it's probably where it needs to be. But in terms of just what we've done to date and in fairness, that's probably the best thing to do, is just to leave it as is and review the policy at a very near future council meeting. So Councillor Savage, I know you wanted to speak.
Yes,
again.
thank you. A number of points in no particular order. The foothills is almost $8,000 per lot as a cash amenity contribution. That's not in the amenity document. The speed reader is not in the amenity document. Previously, both the road improvements and the speed reader on the previous two rezonings were perfectly acceptable, so I don't know why this one isn't. DCCs, they're meant to cover the cost of the actual development. They're not a profit. So we don't need to change the amenities document. I don't know why I keep hearing this. It's already in there, 20K. It's community water infrastructure. It's one of the amenities that can be given. So, and I'm not increasing the per lot amount. It's a lump sum I'm suggesting, unrelated to a per lot amount. So, and last two things, please. I don't accept we have to live with the Lot A Dickinson as a precedent. I mean, good heavens, we're sunk if we do that. That was a 1,200% increase in density, and we got again that around that 3,000 per lot and a bit of road fix up with a bit of a sidewalk on the other side, and that was it. And through question to staff, please, through chair to staff, I'm just wondering what water will be servicing this lot. A portion is in the upper pressure zone and a portion is in the lower pressure zone. Will it be two different zones, two separate pipes, or will it be the lower pressure zone with a pump or some such thing? Or do you know the answer to that? Or?
I don't know if anyone on staff is prepared to answer that. It's not really in keeping with the referral motion, which has to do more with community amenity contributions. But
staff can answer the question, great. If not, I think an email response would be okay as well.
I believe the answer to that is that it'd be serviced in the lower pressure zone.
I'm sorry, I couldn't quite hear you.
The lower pressure zone.
Okay, so will that in fact change the boundary of the upper pressure zone then to go around that property?
That I cannot answer at this point in time.
Yep, that's fine, thank you. And last quick thing I was also going to suggest is a referral, having 2 speed readers instead of 1, because I see now where we were told before it was $15,000 for a speed reader. The applicant is only giving up to $10,000, so we need them all over Lantzville, these speed readers. So I'm hoping that's the least we can do for an increase is 2 speed readers. Thank you.
So is there any member, so Councillor Gusbrack, and then I'm inclined to call the question.
Yeah, just one point. I heard Councillor Savage refer to the foothills providing $8,000 a lot when the phase development comes, but that wasn't a community contribution, community amenity contribution. That was a negotiated item as part of the memorandum of understanding, which is set out in the MOU of 2014. Totally separate thing than the CAC for lots.
Hold on, let's not get into a back and forth, but through to Director Limshu, I just as a point of clarification, with respect to the, since it's being stated now, with respect to the foothills, $8,000 or the proposed $8,000 per lot, is that not a community amenity contribution? That's how I understand it, but it's best to hear from our Director of Planning.
That, I mean, certainly the foothills has provided a number of amenities in relation to their rezoning. You know, whether that number is actually 8,000 per lot, you know, that number was negotiated a number of years ago, and certainly it'd be considered a community amenity contribution at that point in time. And I believe that agreement was made before there was any policy put in place.
Yeah,
and I think the other thing too that council's got to recognize is that, you know, when you're comparing foothills to an 8-lot subdivision, you're comparing apples to orange. The scale is totally different. The context is different. So I'm not sure that it's a fair comparison to bring the foothills into this particular discussion.
Okay. Is there any follow-ups, Councillor Gusbrack? Through to Director Coates.
And sorry, just back to the last speaker. I just want to clarify, I don't show the motion as having anything about speed readers in it.
That's the second one underneath the one I gave you there?
But it's not the motion on the floor that's being discussed. Is that correct?
No,
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay. So through to council, we do have a referral motion on the floor at the moment, so I will call the question on that. So all those in favor and opposed, noting that Councillor Gusbrack, Councillor Wilson, and Councillor Proctor are opposed, the motion fails. So that takes us on to continued debate on second reading. So Councillor Savage.
Yes, thank you. If I may make my second referral motion then, please. It's just a short, quick one.
You can go ahead, yes.
Thank you. This referral motion is that this rezoning application be referred back to staff to explore 2 speed readers instead of 1 as an amenity.
And do we have a seconder to this amendment? Okay, so due to the lack of seconder, the referral motion fails. So that takes us on to any further debate on second reading. Okay. Hearing none, I will move to calling the question then. All those in favor and opposed, noting that Councillor Savage is opposed, second reading carries. All right, so that takes us on to item of that is below. So someone, or actually I'll just simply make the motion that the adoption of the District of Lantzville zoning bylaw number 180/2020 amendment, open bracket 6935 Dickinson Road, close bracket bylaw number 302/2022, not be considered until the registration of a covenant to install a permanent speed reader sign in the vicinity of Dickinson Road to the satisfaction of the Director of Public Works, or funds have been provided to the district to purchase and install the speed reader sign in the vicinity of Dickinson Road. Is there a second? A second by Councillor Gusselbrecht. Discussion on the motion. I'm not going to belabor this one too much. It's pretty straightforward. So through to the seconder, if there's any additional comment,
Nothing to
debate.
add.
And through to the rest of the council. Okay, hearing none, I will move to call in the question. All those in favor and opposed, noting that Councillor Savage is opposed, the motion carries. So it takes us on to bylaw number 305, that the District of Lantzville 2022 tax rates bylaw number 2022 be given first, second, and third readings. Is there a second?
Point of privilege.
Yes, go ahead.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm going to have to excuse myself from the meeting. I don't feel well.
Okay. So noting, I guess it's 7:32, Councillor Proctor is leaving the meeting. All right, so that takes us on to, so it's been moved and, sorry, I'm looking for a seconder. So seconded by Councillor Savage. Discussion on the motion. So through to Councillor Savage, if you wish, and then to the
Yes,
rest of
thank you.
council.
Question through to staff, please. The amount of the tax requisition is $612,200 more than 2021, for a total of $3,067,600, which means a 24.9% tax requisition increase. So the staff report, Director Hare, page 38 states the 2022 requisition is 612,000 higher, 612,200 higher than 2021, of which 118,800 bucks is attributed to non-market change, also known as new construction, and 493,400 for $493,400 is derived through a 19% increase in property taxes. So can you please explain, Director Hare, what you mean by the phrase $118,000 of the $612,000 tax requisition increase is attributed to new construction? If you could explain, please.
Yes, Your Worship, through you to Councillor Savage. So the property taxes are increasing by $612,200 from the previous year. Of that increase, $118,800 is newfound tax dollars from new construction. And so the remaining $493,400 is being raised through an increase in property taxes, or property tax rates.
Okay, so what you're saying then is it was $55,000 budget time. That's what the Foothills increase in revenue was. And now that shot up to $118,000 of new tax income?
I thought it was higher than 55,000, but yes, new construction revenue based on the revised roll was 118,800.
Okay, and is that, when you say tax income, is that gross tax income or net tax income?
sorry, I don't understand the difference between gross tax income and net.
Okay,
I
so
don't
that's-
understand what you're asking.
Yeah, that's gross income then added to our tax rolls. Therefore, the tax increase is now 19% because of this new income?
That's correct.
Okay, so the so that works out then too. If 493,400 equates to a 19% tax rate increase, that equals $25,968 for every 1% tax increase. Is that correct?
I can't answer that question because I'm
Yeah,
not sure
yeah.
where your calculation is coming from.
Okay, well, that's what it works
Okay.
out to there. So I guess what so basically then it's no longer a $612,200, or is it? It's still a $612,200 tax requisition, but because the Foothills income has increased by $118,000, therefore the new tax requisition, the increase is only this $493,400?
No, this year's property taxes will collect $612,200 more. It'll generate $612,200 more than in the previous year. So in the previous year, we collected $2,455,417 from property taxes. This year, we'll be collecting $3,067,600. That amount is actually $612,200 higher. That $612,200 can be broken down into two components. So one component is new taxation revenue, which has come on the stream from new construction. That's the $118,800. And then the remaining $14,493,400 is being raised through an increase in property tax rates.
Gotcha. So another way to put that is then it's kind of, in fact, it requires less of a tax requisition because of this new income. Is that not another way to put it?
That's another way to put it. The new construction revenue has reduced the amount of the tax increase that would otherwise be required to raise the revenues required to meet the expenditures in the financial plan.
Gotcha. So here's the key point to this, is that now we're in a situation of growth in Lantzville. We are going to see every year a different tax requisition just because there are going to be more people, but we're also going to see new costs due to more people. So therefore, it'll be somewhat balanced that the new tax requisition will likely truly reflect a true increase in spending. However, things like the Foothills are a bit of an anomaly because their tax assessed value is so high that they're actually, in effect, subsidizing somewhat other houses. So I understand what you mean now. So we can call it a 19% increase in taxes thanks to the Foothills, basically, is what we're saying. So I appreciate that. And I'll just finish off by saying that I've already registered my opposition to this big tax hike, so I won't repeat myself, but I will point out the two new staff hirings for 2022 will not start until partway through this year. So the next council will have an automatic tax increase next year when the full weight of a full year's wages kicks in for both these staff. And the other thing, no, we covered that. So anyway, basically, I won't be supporting this because for me, the budget has too much spending and especially on administration, so I won't be supporting it, but I appreciate your input, Director Hare. Thank you.
Okay,
If I
additional
can, if I
speakers
may
on this?
if I may just make a correction
Go ahead, Director Hare.
on the staff wages, we've budgeted a full year of wages in the current year budget so that budget decisions that were made in 2022 wouldn't spill over to 2023. So we budgeted for a full year of wages. So there won't be any impact on the 2023 budget.
Thank you very much
from
for
those
that.
staffing positions.
Yeah, thanks very much for that clarification.
Yeah, did you have a follow-up?
Yes, please. Yeah, so just a quick follow-up then, Director Hare, please, is so the balance left over, what will that go into if it's not spent this year?
Currently, it should contribute to the surplus.
Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Gesselbrecht, you had your hand up.
Yes, through the chair to staff, the 118,000 and change for new construction, that wasn't only the foothills, was it? There were other construction projects that went ahead. For example, the I think 3 or maybe 4 houses on Alds Road, which can you confirm that or not?
Your worship, through you to Councillor Gesselbrecht, that is correct. That is new construction in all of Lantzville. So not just foothills, any new construction that was assessed by BC Assessment.
Any additional questions, Councillor
So
Gesselbrecht?
if I can also remark, of the 118,000, almost half of that came in the utilities class. So I'd have to go back and take a look. I bet that the utilities class is probably related to foothills infrastructure.
Okay, thank you for that. Any additional follow-up, Councillor Gesselbrecht?
Yes, you said from the utilities class. Maybe you can explain that?
So we have basically several classes of taxation. Class 1 is a residential class. Class 2 is utilities. Class 9 is farm, for instance. So if I were to take a look at a further breakdown of that 118,700, approximately 57,000 of that is in the utilities tax class. So not all of it is residential construction, is what I'm saying.
Well, which utilities do we have that are paying that? What do you mean?
So class 2 through BC Hydro is the utilities class. So for example, the water infrastructure up in the foothills area would be classified. I believe there was the developer put in a lift station for water up there and water infrastructure, which would be utilities class.
Thank you.
Okay, through the rest of the council, I guess that's myself and Councillor Wilson. For myself, I'll just keep it real brief, but I'm not going to rehash the tax increase and my lack of support for that. We're still facing nearly $500,000 increase in taxes or in spending over last year. So that does not sit well with me. When looking at the big picture here, and big picture meaning like the RDN, taxation, our taxation, hospital taxation, and even school taxation, I don't have a full grasp on how much everything is increasing, but I do know here in Lantzville, ours is going up 19%. The RDN is almost 10%. The hospital taxation is going up quite a bit. Was it 110%? Or something to that effect? Maybe Director Hare, I should get that clarified. What is the hospital tax going up?
Your worship, I believe it was 101 or 102%. It almost doubles.
Yeah, so that's almost doubling. And I think the school tax, I don't know how much of an increase is expected there. But then we have the library. Do we have numbers on the school tax, Director Hare?
The school tax numbers just came in today. I haven't had a chance to look at them yet.
Okay, yeah, if you could forward that on, I'm definitely interested in terms of how much it's increasing over last year. And then, so, you know, when I look at the big picture, our overall tax bills are swelling and it does not sit well. And, you know, I think we have to definitely look at it on all levels and how we can pare that back. It's not sustainable, you know, for taxpayers. Gas prices are going up, food prices are going up. You know, it's not good. So there's a lot of pressures, and we did talk about the pressures during the whole financial planning session and so forth. But something's got to give. That's ultimately it. And I will support this motion this evening. Again, noting that I'm not happy with the tax increase, but this isn't the time to have that fight. That time is past. And I accept the will of this council that this is what we're putting on to our residents is a $500,000 or nearly $500,000 more in spending. That's not covered, well, that's excluding the stuff that's covered by new construction. But anyways, not happy. So through to the rest of the council, if you wish, and then I will move to calling the question. So go ahead, Councillor Gesselbrack.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's happy. I certainly am not. But the reality is, to maintain services within the district, we had to sit down and look very acutely at the money that would come from taxes and what we had to pay. I mean, the biggest part of our budget was the asset management. I'm sitting at the RDN, and the budgets that we're looking at there, as the mayor mentioned, a 10% increase. You'll see in my report later on from the Nanaimo Regional Hospital District, there's some big plans, and the taxes are going to go up, which we pay. Every municipality and electoral district in the RDN is going to be paying. Why? Because we want those hospital services. So nobody's happy. We're in a period of extreme inflation right now. We all see that on TV every night. What do? Well, hunker down. Something's got to give, or we're just going to have to do without at some point in the future. So there.
Any final words before we move to a call-in question? Councillor Savage?
Yes, I'll certainly end this on a good note, and that is absolutely thrilled at the way our hospital's going. We're so lucky to have such a great hospital so close in Nanaimo. And also that announcement we had not too long ago that they're looking at having a cancer wing there, an expansion just for cancer. So that's very good news. And our medical system is ever improving. We're living longer, requiring a longer period of health and so on. So I think that's a good note. I fully support increases to the hospital. Such a good thing. And the last thing I forgot to point out with our own taxes, the $500,000 increase, that's just for increase that requires taxes to fund it. There are other expenses we've been doing too from grants and other funding sources. So generally, that's just me. I'd like to see a decrease in the spending to help out, but that's how it is. I respect council's decision. I just won't be supporting it. Thank you.
All right, so I'm going to move to call in the question. All those in favor and opposed, noting that Councillor Savage is opposed, it carries. All right, where are we here? So that takes us on to 9C. So we have the development variance permit application for 2050 Broad Ridge Place. I'll make the motion that the development variance permit number DVP 22-2 for 5020 Broad Ridge Place be approved to increase the maximum height of a house from 9 meters to 11 meters. Is there a seconder for this? Seconded by Councillor Savage. Discussion. So I'll, as the mover, I'll forgo my turn at this point to the seconder.
Yes, thank you. I was all set with this. It all looked fine, but then the problem is, and boy, I wish I wouldn't get emails on the day of the council meetings. But anyway, we did, and there's two people across the road that are asking to oppose this because they're convinced it will affect their view. So my solution would be, I was going to ask Mr. Tangi this earlier, but my solution would be to give them time to convince these two neighbors that there is not a view implication with the height of the property. But when I hear from two neighbors that they believe there is, I have to take it very seriously because the amount of money these lots cost, people are investing a lot in them, and it can really spoil your, your new home when what you thought would be one thing turns out to be something else, especially if there's a particular view they bought it for, expecting the certain height. I remember we approved of a height increase already for all of the first phase foothills to accommodate for slopes and so on. But I'm always happy to support variances almost without exception, as long as it's not bothering neighbors or affecting neighbors, I should say. So I think the best solution here is to refer this to the next meeting to give these neighbors a chance to be convinced, and perhaps Director Limshu can be involved in that. And I know the general manager, Allard Okenen, was involved in this decision, and he would, I don't think, ever approve, or, he would be neutral in this, in that he would want the other two owners to be pleased with any building decision there. So between all these people, I'm hoping that these neighbors can be convinced that there's not. It's an easy solution. If it does affect their view, you can change the roof line to a 4-to-1 pitch, which is shallower, or you can have a flat roof. There's many solutions to it, but I don't think it's cricket to affect the view of neighbors with a variance. This is a big variance too. It's a full 2 meters, which is 6.5 feet thereabouts. So anyway, that would be my solution, but I'd await to hear from others. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Gusselbach, go ahead.
Yes, I thought I heard Director Limshu say that he had a presentation on this.
That is correct, yes. So totally slipped my mind. Thank you, Councillor Gusselbach. So through to Director Limshu, if you're able to kind of backtrack here and introduce the proposed development variant permit, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm just going to share my screen. So bear with me. Sorry. I cannot find my PowerPoint presentation. Can everybody see?
Yes, we can. And then again, if you can just lean back a little bit, I think that helps your audio.
So yes, you're able to see the PowerPoint.
Is this in the agenda materials?
Yes, it is.
It is. Yeah. All right. So the plan you see before you is just a map showing identifying the subject property, which is located at 5020 Broadridge Place. The purpose of the application is to ask for an increase in the height from 9 meters, which is the maximum required under the zoning, which is the foothill zones. So decrease the height from 9 meters to 11 meters, maximum height. As indicated previously, council's received emails and letters from three neighbors in the area. Strata Lot 3, 5013, and 4995 are the 3 properties. The plan that you see before you is a copy of the site plan. So here's Broadridge Place. The garage that was being discussed earlier is in this location, and the main house is in this general location. Okay, so the plan that you see before you is the elevation of the proposed house without the variance. So this green line represents the elevation of the road as it exists today. So basically, if you're standing at the road, this is the portion of the portion of house that you see above the green line is what you would see today without a variance. So that's basically this area right here. And the other key component of this purple line is an indication of the driveway grade going down towards the garage. Oops. So with the 2 meter variance, what that enables the property owner to do is effectively lift the building 2 meters up. And as you can see, this is the existing road, so that hasn't changed. It's a fixed point. But with the 2 meter elevation, this is the portion of house that you would see above the road grade here. And really, this hatched area represents that 2 meter increase. The other key component to all this is that the actual grade of the driveway is reduced. So it's not as steep as you saw in the previous drawing. So I think, when you read the package and submission from the applicant, the whole point really is to reduce the grade of the driveway to make it more safe for not only their daily use, but also for moving trucks and so forth. Fire trucks, if they need to get to the site in an emergency, reduce the steepness of the driveway down towards the garage. The majority of the house will still be below the actual road. In most cases, what you would find is that the house itself would be at grade with the road. In this case, because of the drop from the road into the site, only a limited portion of the house is actually visible from the road itself. I guess the last point that the applicants made in their submission is that the purpose of this variance really is to address the steepness of the driveway. As far as improving their sight lines, their views are basically unobstructed, whether it's down 2 meters or up 2 meters. That's not the purpose. The purpose really is to create a less steep driveway into their garage. So with that, I'll stop sharing and answer any questions from council.
Okay, go ahead, Councillor Gusselbart.
Thank you. As I indicated earlier, I went up there today to try to get an idea. I see the map that's at page 51 of our agenda. It's a site map, and I've identified the other property owners that have complained, worried about a view. So first of all, my question to you, Director Limshu, I understand from your report you went up there, and does this 2 meter variance proposal impact the two properties that have complained? Would it impact their view? And do you understand where their building site would be? Has that been decided by anybody?
Your worship, through Councillor Gesselbrecht, this is a relatively new subdivision. So folks are now getting themselves organized and preparing their building applications. So as far as the 3 adjacent properties go, they're in the process of preparing their building plans. So I don't have specific site plans for where they're going to put their house on their particular properties. You did get a letter of support from the immediate property owner on lot 3, which is immediately adjacent to the property, to the subject property. There is
just as a point of
concern.
information, sorry, is that street address 5030?
That's correct.
Okay, I'm just checking. So
Yep. So the email of support is from 5030. 5013 across the road indicated that they object to the proposed variance. And then we also received a letter of opposition from 4995 Broadridge Place. So let's, I'll speak to 4995. Haven't been up in that subdivision. I think one thing that council should consider is that on the lower portion of 5020, there's a covenant area. There's a water course that runs through the property. And on the site plan, it does show that area is being protected. So it is currently treed. And in fact, a lot of those trees will effectively screen a good portion of the house from 4995. So that takes us to the property located at 5013, which is immediately across the road. And in looking at the elevation plans that I just shared with council, the portion of building on the high side, you're looking at just over 2 meters of build. If you're standing on the road on the high side, you're basically going to see just over 2 meters of the roof line. Granted, the amount of house that you see from the road will increase as you walk down the road, down Broadridge towards Harwood Drive.
Yeah, go ahead.
The property at 5013, it's pretty steep. Having seen some of the neighbors on Spence's Way, there were concerns there about roof lines, and that's legitimate. People are spending a lot of money for ocean view or portion of an ocean view. I tend to agree with Councillor Savage. Could this variance permit be postponed and allow the surveyors, specifically the surveyor for 5020, nobody likes to spend more money on survey, but perhaps there could be an agreement between the 2 property owners to find out where 5013 is going to build, and the same for 4995, to see if in fact once they select their pad and they start cracking rock up there, what's going to be obscured, because it's really difficult until you actually crack out your pad and get height elevations to see what's going to be in your view. So I don't know, whether, I know construction's going ahead. The owner at 50, the proponent here, wants to get on with it. But I'm just wondering if some more, as Councillor Savage says, some good neighborly discussions, keep it on the let's find a solution side. And, you can go on the higher side there at 5013. You can get poles, put them up, get up above, take the sight line and take a look. So I see Director Limshu has his hand up again.
Your worship, through the council, yes, certainly staff can work with the applicant and the adjacent property owners, the neighbors, to see whether or not there's an amenable solution in moving forward with this particular development.
Okay, I just had a couple questions through to Director Limshu. On page 48 of the report, at the top under notification, it does say that neighboring owners and occupiers within 60 meters have been notified. I have not been up there, so I have no idea what's on these lots, how many are actively under construction and so forth. So my question has to do more with, how are these people notified? And, we have a response from a couple neighbors in close proximity, but I'm curious about the people who have purchased, 5007, 5001, and even 5025, for that matter. How were they notified? Are there people living in homes there? I have no idea.
Yep. So there are no finished homes on that street at the moment. There are a number of sites that are currently under construction. In terms of notification, as indicated in the staff report, we do notify adjacent property owners within 60 meters of the subject property, and that is through mail. And so we follow not only just our policies, but we also follow the Local Government Act. And the Act is pretty specific in terms of the time frame for which you send the notices out to adjacent property owners. And so it's my understanding, yes, that we did receive, as council was aware, letters from individual property owners, 3 of them. The developer, Lone Tree, also still owns a number of those properties as well. And so they're aware of the proposed variance. And I know that they've had discussions with the applicant on this also.
And just as a follow-up question, what's the timeline to respond once the mail out has gone? Do you give it 30 days, 45 days? How many days are given?
Generally it's around, we try and get the, at the very least, a week to respond, and it can respond via email, or register as we've seen tonight, to speak on the item.
Okay, so is that,
and then they have until noon of the meeting to submit any written comments that they have with respect to the project.
so just as a follow-up, when did this letter get mailed out to the neighboring properties approximately?
Yeah, the approximate, let's see, not last Friday, the Friday before. So it's my understanding that some, at the very least with one of the neighbors, they didn't receive their letter until a couple of days ago.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
That's all. Yeah. Thank you.
But that's our standard practice in terms of notification.
Okay. So Councillor Gusbart, go ahead, and then I probably have some follow-up.
Yeah, we've had an intervening 4-day holiday. I don't, unless you tell me different, and I know nobody wants to hold up construction, but let's get a solution. So my motion will be to postpone this application to the next regular meeting.
Okay, so postponement motion is being made and seconded by Councillor Savage, so it's really just debatable time for time. So just as a question through to Councillor Gusselbrecht, is the intent of the motion to allow for more response or for staff to work with the applicant? What is the intent of the postponement, if I may?
Two things that for further response in case somebody is away, people go on holidays. I understand that the developer still owns the lots up there, so he's involved. It might be to his benefit to keep purchasers happy that he gets involved. My dealings with him, he's always been a reasonable gentleman. I'm sure he can be notified of this. And, you know, just respect for the people who are building and people who might be building above. It's expensive rock up there. So let's give them a chance for anybody else who wants to respond, but more of a chance for the people who are feel that their views might be impacted to get up there and take a real look, see if in fact it's going to be or not.
So this to be postponed to the May 4th meeting. Director Coates?
Yes, I just wanted to clarify that we would expand it a bit. So it says that the motion on the floor be postponed to the May 4th, 2022 regular council meeting in the council chambers, 7192 Lantzville Road. Just so it's very clear for people who previously received a notice that it's simply been postponed to the same.
Okay.
Okay.
Good. Director Limshu, I see your hand is back. Oh, no, is that, yeah, I think it's Director Limshu.
That's okay. Yeah, Director Coates answered my question, but I do see that the applicant does have their hand up as well.
Sure. You know, just keeping in mind through to Mr. Tange, it's we're into debate of council, so I don't want to get into debate with you, so or for you to debate council. So at this point, unless it's really about providing council with information or a question or an answer to maybe a question that's being asked, but just keep that in mind. So I'll permit you to speak. Just again, please don't debate council.
Okay, this is to council. Mr. Allard has been actually spearheaded a lot of the process in this, in which we have discussed with the neighbors, and he was for our proposal. He'd also talked to the other neighbors as well. One of the letters that we received, we did not get a response from. We also emailed those people back with all the information that we provided Director Limshu to make sure that everybody was clear of our application. It wasn't to improve the view, it was just for the safety of the driveway. And the fact that what is not shown on this is that what Director Limshu has shown is that the covenant area has very tall trees. So lot 28 wouldn't necessarily gain any view anyways. So we have tried diligently to communicate with everyone. We did have a discussion with lot 3 and showed them that their base point, which they have a stake on the property at 200.43, was considerably higher than our application. So we come in 0.22 meters still under his base of his garage level. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. All right, so we have a postponement motion on the floor to refer this to the May 4th meeting. Unless there's an issue with the timing, I'm going to call the question. So seeing and hearing nothing, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor and opposed? So that's carried unanimously. All right, moving on. So that takes us on to committee recommendations under 11A. So we have the Community Safety Standing Committee, April 12th, 2022 recommendations. So I'll just make the motion that that council directs staff to place a culvert at Normal Drive and Siwash Ridge Road intersection for additional parking. Is there a seconder to that? Second by Councillor Gusselbrecht. Discussion on the motion. Yeah, this is a pretty straightforward one through to staff. I don't know if there's any additional costing that needed to be communicated from what staff indicated to council during or to the committee members during that standing committee meeting of April 12th, was that there's already a piece of culvert that's kicking around in the yard that would be perfect for that spot to create some additional parking. So aside from that, I don't know if any member of staff had any further comment about costing or if there's any issues with that. So through to CEO Campbell, I see you've unmuted.
Your Worship, I don't think anything's changed. I did speak with Director Spears about this, and he's prepared to move forward if this gets approved by council.
Okay, excellent. So through to the seconder, Councillor Gusselbrick, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, we did have a good discussion on this at the meeting. This is the problem with parking at this intersection, which is actually a curve, and it's at the trailhead up into the woodlot. And we've discussed different ways of going about it. Director Spears indicated that one proposal we thought might be good would be to pave a parking lot by the BC Hydro stanchions. He indicated that BC Hydro probably wouldn't look on that favorably. But he did have another piece of culvert that could go into the swale there and would provide further parking. The owner of the property there has always been very supportive, even though people took advantage, walked through his property. I think he would support this, and it's just, once again, good neighborly. Let's try to provide parking to our trails. We're going to have the same problem when we finally deal with the foothills, and making sure that, you know, we've got this beautiful park that's coming, but is there parking? Can we get to it? So yes, I'm in favor of this motion.
Okay, and any additional speakers on this item? Okay, hearing none, I'll move to call in question. All those in favor and opposed? That's carried unanimously. Okay, so it takes us on to the next recommendation, that the 30-kilometer-hour speed limit be temporarily extended on Dickinson Road from Lantzville Road to Jacks Road. That's a mouthful. Do we have a seconder to that? So a second by Councillor Savage for discussion. Again, this is just another recommendation from our Community Safety Standing Committee. So essentially, that's that little rough, bumpy patch, or more or less lumpy, bumpy patch leading up to Lantzville Road as you're traveling along Dickinson. And this is just to extend it at the 30-kilometer-hour zone. So it's a pretty straightforward motion. In terms of what's going to happen with the speed limit on that road, that will be further assessed when Dickinson Road gets repaved, which should be occurring in 2022. And at the safety committee meeting, Director Spears did indicate that planning is underway, and they're working with the engineers to figure out how to best do that road. And it's a bit of a time. It's going to take a bit of time to figure that out, but it's underway. So in the meantime, this is just a way to kind of curb the speed on that section of Dickinson. So unless there's any further debate or comment, we'll likely move to calling the question. So Councillor Gusselbrick, go ahead.
Yeah, unfortunately, I had to leave the meeting before we discussed this. So this is a very small portion, what, 50 meters?
I don't know the exact distance, but that's probably close.
So we already have 30 kilometers on Lantzville Road in the downtown, and this would be just around the bend, temporary 30 meters. Are there problems there? I mean, I know there's problems on Dickinson Road, but is this, the curve here, is this a particular problem?
Perhaps I can illuminate that with what Director Spears said, but there's already a 30 zone on Dickinson Road leading up to Lantzville Road. So this is just extending this a few houses down to Jacks Road, and it will encase that lumpity-bumpity area on Dickinson Road, plus it covers the houses that are closest to the road. So it's just a short distance and it's temporary until the new road's built.
We've got lots of lumpity-bumpity on Dickinson, but this sounds reasonable. I can support it.
Yep.
Okay, any additional debate, comments, questions? Okay, hearing none, seeing none, I'll move to call in question. All those in favor and opposed, that's carried unanimously. All right, so that takes us on to new business. So we have mayor and council updates. So we under
Point of
that,
privilege.
Councillor, yeah, go ahead.
Could we take a little break?
If you want to take 5 minutes, we can recess for 5 minutes. So we'll reconvene at
8:25. Still live.
Is this bathroom not good enough? You had to go outside?
Here, so.
Okay, noting it's 8:26, I'm calling this meeting back to order. We're on to item 12 of our agenda under new business. So we have mayor and council verbal updates. Councillor Gusselbreck has the Nanaimo Regional Hospital District news release. So I'll pass it over to Councillor Gusselbreck.
Thank you. This came out of our last meeting at the Nanaimo Regional Hospital District. So I encourage people to read it. It's pages 65 and 66 of our agenda. This indicates that the NRHD has confirmed its 5 major areas of focus for capital planning and advocacy are the patient tower replacement at NRGH, a new cancer center, a cardiac catheterization lab, basically stents, a new high acuity unit, which I understand is similar to an ICU, but it's adjunct to that. I think you'd go to this unit before you'd go to the ICU, or after the ICU, you'd be put in this unit. All to be located at NRGH and a long-term care facility in Lantzville. Typically, the Nanaimo Regional Hospital District, like other hospital districts, provides 40% of the funding, with the balance 60% coming from the province. Now, I've seen the budget, and the hospital budget, the Nanaimo Regional Hospital District budget, has actually increased for the 2022 year. It's going to increase for each of the next 5 years in order to put aside funds for these projects. The total amount of these projects at this point are approximately $1.795 billion. Now, one point of the discussion we had was that during the election, the province did indicate that they would be funding the new cancer center. And if that is carried through, then the balance remaining that the NRHD would be responsible for would be $519 million, a lot of money. There are various stakeholders, including the First Nations and other healthcare providers that are going to be contacted. There's obviously advocacy component to this, but we were pleased to have, I forget the doctor's name, Dr. Copeland, who spoke to our council as well as to the regional, with his chart showing that the upper island, anything above the Malahat, is woefully underfunded and woefully, we don't have the doctors, we don't have the specialists. And as was pointed out in these various discussions, the specialists don't like to come to the region unless there's updated facilities. You have the cancer ward, you have state-of-the-art facilities. They simply don't want to come. So this is a big proposal that's going to take place over the next couple of years. And as we said, if we want the services, if we want those, then we're going to have to pay for them. So more will be coming on this, but this is a big announcement, and I wanted to make sure that we had it at this point. Thank you.
We'll go to Councillor Wilson next for mayor and council verbal update.
Nothing to report, thanks.
And Councillor Savage.
Just a quick one. Great to hear about the hospital stuff. It's excellent. Attended the Rotary Easter egg hunt. Just so much fun watching the little tiny kids do their thing. Thoroughly enjoyable. Had some sun for it too. And then the beach cleanup is Saturday, April 23rd, which I attended last year. It's a great example of community pride. Lots of people turn out for it. And even though some years the beaches are pretty clean, that's a good thing. So we'll see what we find on Saturday. Thank you. I think there's even a pair going out to the Maud Island and so on to see if there's any cleanup needed there by kayak. So thank you. Oh, and one last thing, please, just a question through to staff. Just wondering when we might be getting our next subdivision report. I see there's one on Alds Road that I haven't heard about, and then there's a rezoning sign in East Lantzville on a couple of properties.
My apologies, I'm not aware that council receives reports. Council passed a policy some time ago that staff update a table that's on our website with subdivision information.
Oh, so the table's up there now, is it?
Yes, at all times.
Have a look. Thank you.
Okay, and for myself, yeah, again, just recognizing that Earth Day coming up, and then on the following day, Saturday, that as Councillor Savage has already indicated, there's going to be a beach cleanup done by some community members that are spearheading that kind of a grassroots thing. So it's excellent. I'll be there picking up my picking up beach garbage. I know I got a ton of metal last year, and it's surprising, like, where does this stuff come from? And even the styrofoam and so forth. I don't know how much styrofoam I picked up last year, but you know, it's just funny how you just uncover this stuff year after year. With respect to the Nanaimo Regional Hospital Board and the increase that we're going to be seeing in our taxes, you know, it's over 100% increase in our contribution. And yeah, it's you know, we're due for it, especially if we want to have the medical services in closer proximity. You know, when I was on the board, you know, there was a lot of discussion about, you know, if you're on the other side of the Malahat, the level of healthcare that's available to you is just unbelievable compared to being on this side of the Malahat or north of the Malahat. The biggest issue I have with these large cost increases coming our way is that the regional district Nanaimo and, you know, the member municipalities and electoral areas are getting sandbagged with the majority of the costs. This regional, which will become a regional hospital and serving the North Island essentially, or be way closer than Victoria, needs to have more monies coming from other areas, in my opinion. Just putting it all on our shoulders is not fair. It's as simple as that. So I hope in the coming years the province can figure it out and make sure that it's an equitable situation with all stakeholders for the, you know, going to the West Coast or out to the West Coast and going to the North Island, because we will be the closest catheterization lab, will be the closest cancer lab. And it's only fair that other communities that will be benefiting from this will be contributing to this. So I recognize that, you know, Nanaimo and the Nanaimo area hasn't been contributing to the Victoria stuff, but you know, there's more dollars that are getting spent there anyways. But I think with such a large expenditure coming our way, and especially in this capital realm of a tower and so forth, it's over what $1.5 billion of spending. That's a lot of money, and we're going to see over $500 million getting put onto us as taxpayers in this region. So I sure hope that it is an equitable situation is created, that all, you know, neighboring municipalities and regional districts north of the Malahat contribute, and that is my hope. So, but again, it is good news that we are moving forward in this area, because again, if you want cancer treatment, or if you need cancer treatment, you have to go really far away from home. And it's the same thing for the cardiac care and other levels of care that we just don't have more local. So again, it's a step in the right direction, but again, when it comes down to affordable living, man, we are getting taxed like crazy these days, and it's just not fun. That's going to put me in the hospital one day, I'm sure of it. So So moving on in our agenda, so we're on to, where are we at here? We have a leak adjustment under 12B, so leak adjustment request utility account 005-079-59000-000. This is for 7122 Dickinson Road. I'll just simply make the motion that the request for adjustment for utility account number 005-079-59000-000 for 7122 Dickinson Road being denied. So that's the motion. Actually, I should, I'll substitute denied and say be accepted, or, yeah. Yeah, I know. I'm sorry about that. I should have, So on page 67 of the agenda, there's an alternate motion. So all that, what I said up to that point, be authorized in the amount of $170.04 in contravention of the water system bylaw number 140. So is there a seconder for that? So second by Councillor Savage. Discussion on the motion. Just leading into this one, you know, we have a policy that, or sorry, a bylaw that staff follows, and every time one of these leak adjustments request comes to the district, they are doing their job and they're simply following the bylaw, and the bylaw basically is clearly states that it should be denied. And for us as a council, we take a second look at this and ultimately determine whether or not it is reasonable to accept the leak adjustment or the request for the leak adjustment and grant the refund essentially. So again, staff is doing their job. They're following the policy. Essentially, there is a way out for residents to then bring their concern or their request, to council, and then council can make that decision. So I can't think of a time where we have denied one of these. Every time we get a request, it seems to be pretty straightforward to why we're getting the request. You know, it's just simply not somebody leaving the garden hose on and walking away for a week or two and all of a sudden having a huge bill. There's usually some kind of ill repair or something to that effect where somebody unknowingly has a leak and they're just simply asking for some forgiveness on that. So, and we did have one member of the public speak to this evening, and with respect to that, it's, they're really, when we look at water and we, as a utility and budgeting purposes, it's, the budget is based on anticipated usage. This is one of these over usages, and which we don't budget for, and then the cost for that extra water is not, really it's about electricity, it's about pumping. We're not budgeting based on or having overconsumption. We're based on, budgeting based on what we think is going to be used and so forth. So anyways, we'll be supporting this through to, I think, Councillor Gesbrecht, did you second it? Can't remember, or Councillor Savage, whoever's this, go ahead, Councillor Savage, if you wish, and then through the rest.
No, it's just that this is the best way to do it. The default position is there's no forgiveness of the overuse, and then they simply come to council, get it approved. It's just a small step, but it's better than the default position being use unlimited water with no consequence. So that's all. It's a good system, I think. Thank you.
Councillor Gesbrecht.
Yeah, I think the emphasis in our policy is that look at your water bill when you get it. And most people keep them in some sort of a folder. And if it looks big, look at what came before. And if it looks inordinate, that's your cue to contact the district. Contact the district. Probably even better, send an email or drop off a letter saying, I don't know what's wrong. This seems high. Can somebody come out from staff to check it out? And generally, that's when you can find it. The second item in our policy is that you fix it. you know, get somebody out there. If you can do it yourself, fine. If you need a plumber, get the receipts so that you can show staff that you've taken steps to do it. Because sometimes it escapes your attention. You're on holiday, you're gone during the winter. But the policy is designed that you look, take steps, fix it, let the staff know, and if you need to, come to council. We understand. I've left my hose on, and things happen. So I think it's all good, and I can support this motion.
Okay, unless there's anything additional new, I will move to calling the question. So again, this is granting the refund essentially. So all those in favor? Opposed? That's carried unanimously. Takes us on to item 12C. So this is Councillor Proctor's motion. I'll just simply make it on her behalf so that Councillor Proctor be approved to attend the municipal class Civilitas, Respectful Leadership in Local Government event being held online Friday, May 6, 2022 for the fee of $270.88. Is there a seconder? Second by Councillor Gusselbreck. Discussion on the motion. I was going to make an amendment to this one. Actually, I had seen this personally, and I'm looking at attending it myself. So so I'm going to amend the motion on the floor that after Councillor Proctor and inserting and Mayor Swain, and that's it. So is there a seconder to the amendment? So a second by Councillor Gusselbreck. Discussion on the amendment. Again, you know, reading through the materials, it's pretty straightforward. It's looks like a really excellent class. I looked into it in a little more depth, and it's about a 2.5 hour seminar. So it looks excellent, and you know, the more we can learn about this stuff, the better we can basically perform our jobs as civil servants. So through to Councillor Gusselbreck as a seconder.
No, that's fine.
And through to the rest of the council, and this is the amendment, and then we can go back to the main motion after that. So I'll call the question on the amendment. All those in favor and opposed? And it's carried unanimous. I think there's a lag there. I think that was an affirmative, Councillor Wilson? Yeah, okay. So we're back to the main motion as amended. Any further debate? Okay, hearing none, I will move to calling the question. All those in favor and opposed? That's carried unanimously. Okay. That takes us on to 12D. So this is the Rotary Club of Lantzville letter. So there's a staff recommendation there. So I'll just move to making the motion that council authorizes staff to respond to the Rotary Club of Lantzville's proposal to improve the Lavender Road right-of-way by June 30th, 2020, proposing that the Rotary Club work with the Director of Public Works and the Director of Planning and Community Services, who are authorized to finalize any alternate location for a Rotary Club improvement project. So is there a seconder to this? So second by Councillor Gusselbreck. Discussion on the motion. I'll just quickly lead into this one. So in our agenda package for this evening on page 77, there's a letter from the Rotary Club that outlines the proposed works, and really it's a number of site improvements, preparing the land for getting the canvas ready, so to speak, as well as doing a couple maybe, or I guess they're not really capital projects because they're under 10,000, but essentially there'd be a picnic table and sounds like a gazebo kind of screening shelter thing above a picnic table installed. So anyways, and some other works as indicated in the letter. So I see this as a really good step moving forward with respect to this quarter-acre waterfront park, and taking care of some of the much-needed improvements that should have not been taken care of to date. So, Director Coates.
Just for clarity, the preamble in the motion was identifying that council has postponed work in that area. And so the motion was actually for the Rotary to work with staff to find another location for a project that could be done by June, because they had a June deadline. It was not to do any work in the Lavender Road area.
Through the rest of the council. So Councillor Gustabart, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd through the chair to staff, or if somebody's on the call as well. Is there another location that's been discussed?
No, the point of the motion was for staff to have authorization from council to meet with the Rotary to discuss other locations. Actually, Director Limshu has been in contact with the Rotary there. I don't know if another location was suggested yet, but.
No, that's fine. I mean, Rotary's great. I like buying their books, although that's another Rotary club. I think it's good. I know Councillor Savage has been interested in the Lavender Road end, and I think that further discussion on that has been postponed to the next council, if I'm not mistaken. But this sounds good. Let staff talk with Rotary. It's great having partners here in Lantzville, and I hope that some of the other service clubs, as we expand here in Lantzville, the other service clubs will follow Rotary's lead in getting involved in projects. We've got the Rotary Bowl up on Peterson. That could certainly use some work, but more hands at the pump is always appreciated, and thank you very much.
Okay, additional speakers. So Councillor Savage, go ahead.
Yes, when we had our Beach Road end review done, there was a number of them listed. So if you go to that, you'll see the order of beach road ends that the respondents said were there in priority of ones they wanted done. And I know that Orr Road was up there. There's Eby Road. There's Sebastian might take a little more reviewing there with neighbors and so on. So now with the Lavender, it should be noted, I just really wanted to bring this up because there were a good many residents in this neighborhood who expressed concern over what happens here. And I mean, quite a few. It was all along, many from Lavender itself, then along, there I got a Landcrest Terrace there, and even up from there. So McGill was another one. When residents express concern, I find it a good policy to listen. So I think for that particular road end, I'd like to see a neighborhood roundtable with those concerned to work things out so there's consensus on what happens. It was also very contentious back in 2008, and I would hate to involve the Rotary Club in something contentious and so on. So from what I understand, the motion and the recommendation is to discuss with Rotary possible locations, and then I guess it will come back to council. But I'll leave it at that. I would just caution that that's one of those that's contentious, and also Sebastian, I think you'll find is contentious not because so much the neighbors, which it will be that too, but also the immense amount of people in that area that go there all the time will want a big say in what happens there. So I think those are two contentious ones, but I'll leave it up to staff to to come back with what the proposal is. I understand there's a bit of a deadline here, so I think I'll leave it at that and see what is decided. But I'll leave it up to other councillors too. They may have their ones they want done or not, different areas they want done, including Mayor Swain. So I'll listen to that as well. Thank you.
Okay, through to Director Coates.
Yeah, just for clarity, this motion that's on the floor is to authorize staff to finalize the location. There was no intention because of the timeline to bring it back to council. We viewed it more as a discussion, as Fred often would do, have discussions with people who want to donate a picnic table or do an improvement like in Rotary Park, for example, or one of the other parks. There was no discussion about the road ends, which we understand are a special subject.
Okay, so is there any further questions, comments, debate on this item? Okay, and actually, I was just going to ask a question through to Mr. Taylor. Have you identified any alternate areas? I'm just curious.
No, we haven't. And we've kind of been focused on Lavender Road based on some conversations that we'd had earlier on. And our challenge is that we have to spend this money by the end of our year, which is June 30th. Otherwise, we are in danger of not qualifying for the gaming grants that we get for the following year, which would be 3 or 4 times what the value of the park money is. Yeah, so that's why we're quite keen and eager to do something that allows us to spend, as we do have a contingency plan in our back pocket that would allocate those funds to another organization if we weren't able to move forward fast enough on something in Lantzville here. So,
yeah, for myself, in terms of doing an improvement down at Lavender Road, I don't have any strong objections to doing that. I think in terms of, if it's required to limit the scope of what is to be done in that area, there's lots of great ideas that are in the letter that's being presented to us. But if staff and cannot select an alternate location for these improvements, which seem to be more custom tailored to the Lavender Road end, I'd be disappointed to learn that we let potential dollars leave our community because we couldn't work something out, work out a solution. So I think a lot of the recommendations that are included in that letter from Rotary are not going to infringe upon future development of that waterfront park. So we'll see where this goes, and then if need be, we can always bring it, or I can always bring a motion back at a later date. But there's obviously a sense of urgency here to work out some kind of solution. So we can leave it in staff's hands to work something out, hopefully in short order. And then if we can't, if a amenable solution cannot be worked out, then I'd be prepared to be bringing back something specific to the Lavender Road Park, because why wouldn't we authorize the construction of a gazebo over one of the picnic tables as is? It baffles me to think that we would turn that away. But again, we'll let the process unfold as I'm guessing it'll go where it'll go. But and we'll see what happens. So unless there's anything further, I'll move to calling questions. So Councillor Savage, go ahead.
Yes, I just would add, if it is Lavender that's decided to go ahead with that, there are ways to do it that are kind of more of a blank slate approach. There's just so much to do there in terms of filling in the hole, making it safe, that's still a liability, and grading that, eliminate the stairs, I think was the idea, to grade it down. So it's a lawn walkway down to the lower part there. There is talk of other just sort of general blank canvas improvements that I can see being done. There's just so much there to be done without doing things that would, without big decisions that would affect neighbors is the point. So that could be an approach to Lavender, is to do the blank canvas approach where it's all graded and ready to go for ideas. I think there's some prickles and so on there that could be addressed, things like that. So I just thought I'd add that if that is the decision, that could be one approach, to take the blank canvas approach, and then the phase 2, once everyone got involved with a roundtable with neighbors, maybe after the summer, that sort of thing, then we could go ahead with phase 2. So I thought I'd put that in. Thank you.
Okay, so I'll move to calling the question then. So all those in favor and opposed, that's carried unanimously. All right, so that takes us on to the next item. So that's 12E. So we have the monitoring and recording of stormwater flow at Jacks Road and Huddlestone Road, Outfalls. So this is my recommendation. There's a couple whereas clauses, which I will not read. And I'll just go to the staff recommendation. So basically, the motion that's in our agenda, so that the motion be referred to the financial planning process for staff to provide cost estimates for equipment, hydrologists, and continuous testing. Is there a seconder for that? So a second by Councillor Savage. Speaking to the recommendation, there are some whereas clauses. It's pretty straightforward with respect to the monitoring of stormwater. We ask that new subdivision applications basically have a plan in place that basically results in really no more water leaving the site than what had been previously leaving it prior to subdivision. So. And also the water quality, so that it's not full of contaminants and so forth as it leaves the property. So, at this point, District of Lantzville does not do this. We don't monitor stormwater flow or quality. So I think it's important that if we are going to be looking at or examining this, that we start the process at some point. In terms of this being referred to the financial planning process, that's going to take us into the fall. That's the only part I don't like about the staff recommendation. I don't know if we're able to get something back a lot sooner than that. So that'd be a question through the staff. If we refer this to the financial process, then again, this is going to delay any information, coming back to this council until the fall. So is the intent to have it the report come at that time, or is staff prepared to bring something sooner for our consideration? So that'd be a question. Yeah, so
Sorry.
Director Coate?
My recollection of the discussion was that our process for financial planning is that we submit our special request forms in the summer so that council can be looking at those in September. Also the discussion point is that is a dry, it dries out in the summer. There wouldn't be much to monitor.
Yeah, fair enough. So in terms of we'd be seeing something this summer, is that, or in June or July?
That I would need to defer that question to Mr. Spears.
Okay. All right, so that's all I have for now. So through to the seconder, if you wish, and then through the rest of council.
Yes, I'll speak to the last part first, and that is, sorry, I really don't see a need for a financial report here. It's very simple to measure creek flow. I sent out an article today from the BC government. It's just simply multiplying three numbers together and dividing by another. It's just the cross-section of the area of the creek, which is simply the width times the average of various depths, and then you times that by the length of creek you're measuring, and then you time that by a coefficient, meaning a figure, a percentage figure given by the BC government for rocky bottom versus muddy bottom. Then you simply divide that by the time it takes something to float that distance. And that gives you a rudimentary measurement of the outflow. So it's something that just could take staff time. It doesn't take anything more than that. So if there's more highfalutin ways that are being desired, then in the meantime, I see no reason why basic flow measurements can't be taken now. Just on the two outflows, there's one that goes under Lantzville Road. It looks like a fast-flowing creek this time of the year, and it goes between the little house with the kitchen design and the new doctor's office. It's right in between there. Be very simple to calculate that flow. And then the other one's even easier. It's just a semicircular trough that goes along that path to Lynn Drive and Lancewood, and it's flowing now. So that's a very easy calculation to make, and there's your rudimentary spring calculation. But here's the basic problem, best told with a story about, if you're going to a retreat, a weight loss retreat, where the prize is a trip for two to Hawaii for the first person to lose 10 pounds. If I was a customer, I'd be excited and ask, well, where do we get weighed? And the instructor says, well, actually, we don't have any weigh scales here. We have no way to measure your weight. So the first thing each customer would think is, well, obviously, they're not serious about the trip to Hawaii prize. So in the same way, if we're not measuring the pre-outflow, one can't really take seriously that there's going to be measurements of the post-development outflow that will have any meaning. That's the whole point of it. And the idea to start early is to cover the various seasons. It's, we're now into the later spring season. It's been somewhat wet, so that would be helpful. And there may not be a lot to measure in the summer. Well, that makes it easy. And then we're all set for the fall if, as I say, if there is a more highfalutin way. I know there's flow meters and other techniques, but this is a very simple one that the provincial government finds satisfactory. So I think we should start right away and to do it. And even if it's hiring a person that's done this before for one day, that's a very small amount. That's just some hundreds of dollars. So I'd really wouldn't prefer it's not delayed like this. I see nothing wrong with getting a bit of a financial heads up as to what it might cost. But in the meantime, let's at least do a couple of measurements, one in this spring very soon, and then one in the summer. So that's my thoughts. Thank you.
Okay, additional speakers. So Councillor Gusbart, go ahead.
I'm a little bit disappointed. I thought Councillor Savage is going to tell me I get in that Hawaiian contest. But
sorry about that, but I will measure the creek for you. I know how to do it now.
I can support this.
Okay, additional speakers. So in terms of how it's done, I'm not terribly worried about that. I would assume that, like anything, we'd be following best practices. So whatever the most appropriate way of, determining, what the pre-development flow is versus post-development flow is and so forth would be based on best practices at that time. I am going to propose an amendment to the motion that's on the floor. And the amendment is to, just make sure I got this right, is to strike after referred to, so so I'd be striking the words, the financial planning process for. So just striking that, so it would read that the motion be referred to staff to provide cost estimates for equipment, hydrologists, and continuous testing. I know it's not the most grammatically correct way of doing it, but I think it has the spirit of the motion, or the spirit of the motion is there, and would give us the immediate information that we could assess to determine what the next step would be. Because this might be something that we can simply, actually, sorry, before I go into it, is there a seconder to the amendment? So to delete basically those 4 words. Okay. So just speaking to the amendment, again, I think this would allow us to to quickly ascertain whether or not this is something that's feasible or reasonable for us to be undertaking, and in fact, and consider even possibly funding during this this year. I'm sure we can probably draw upon some monies that are somewhere within the District of Lantzville to fund this if it is reasonable. Again, it's all about getting baseline measurements. So where are we starting from? And the more baseline measurements we can have, the better. So to really make sure that we're following our policies and bylaws and so forth. So that's my amendment and the reason for it. So it's to the seconder, if you wish, and then through the rest of the council. Okay. Councillor Gusbert, go ahead.
Yes, unfortunately, I can't support the amendment. I think we need due process here. This was proposed by staff. I think the proper process is to look at it, see what the financial implications are, and then come back to council with what those are. And instead of just jumping into this. So unfortunately, I can't support the amendment. I supported the original motion. So we'll see what happens.
Okay, Councillor Wilson, go ahead.
I do have a lot of questions with this. I don't see there's no report for this for me. And I mean, as someone that's gone through the, with having a marsh on my property, please close the door. Sorry, someone just walked in my office. I've had to deal with environmentalists, with Ducks Unlimited, with the DFO. And I would like to know more around this motion with respect to like how it's going to play out. Us just hiring a hydrologist, I think this is sort of more of a there should be more of a coordinated approach on this. And I would appreciate referring this back to staff to maybe lay out a roadmap for us with respect to how this should normally go. I don't know, like, if it's the responsibility of, I mean, yeah, it's all of our responsibility to make sure that there's proper monitoring of the outflows of water. But I just think that this is maybe a little bit more of an should be a bit more of an elaborate approach to this, involving the people that deal with this on a regular basis. So rather than us just hiring a hydrologist, I think that there's a bit more to it. So I won't be supporting the motion as it reads. If someone wants to make an amendment to this, that it's referred back to staff, where it comes back where there's more of a roadmap laid out, I'd be open to considering that.
Okay, so we're just on the amendment, and that's just to delete those words to the financial process or planning process. So unless there's a new information debate
Yes, sorry,
on that.
could you reread the?
So the motion, if the amendment goes through, it would simply just read that the motion be referred to staff to provide cost estimates for equipment, hydrologists, and continuous testing. That's if the amendment passes. Did you add through to Director Coates?
Yes, I just wanted to clarify that the original main motion is not on the floor. That's not what's being amended. What the motion that's on the floor is that the motion that was recommended be referred, now it would be changed to be referred for staff to provide. So in a sense, if this amendment happens or if it doesn't happen, the motion that's on the floor is not going to affect the work happening immediately. What it's going to affect is a staff providing a report, because then we will have obtained the information that we feel council needs to have in front of it to make a decision. So it'll be providing cost estimates for the equipment, for our hydrologist, and for continuous testing, so that that would give you the plan I think you were looking for.
Exactly. So yeah. So staff.
Thank you.
Back with the information. So without the motion, council will not get any information. So it's just a matter of whether or not we want to deal with it at the financial planning process or if we want to get that information sooner. So I'd like to see it sooner. That's why I recommended the amendment. So Councillor Gusbrecht, you had your hand up? No? Okay. So I'll just make the, did you have yours up, Councillor Savage?
Yeah, no, you explained everything to me. It's just a matter of getting the information now, even if it's information on what it would cost for one day hydrologist. It's just a few hours work to perform. Then we'll know, at least get one measurement done. So, but I agree, it sounds like we're getting it sooner rather than later, which makes sense. Thank you.
So just call the question on the amendment then. So all those in favor of the amendment? So noting Mayor Swain, Councillor Wilson, and it's your hand up? Okay, I didn't know if it was up, you're stretching. So and Councillor Savage and opposed. Okay, noting nobody's opposed, so the amendment carries. So we're just back to the main. I'll redo that, sorry, I know it's getting late. So I'll call the question on the amendment, and that's to remove those 4 words, the financial planning process. That's the amendment, is to remove those words. So I will call the question on the amendment. All those in favor and opposed, noting that Councillor Gusbrecht is opposed, the amendment carries. Back to the main motion now, which is pretty straightforward. So Director Coates.
Yeah, and just for clarity, just so that the motion will stand alone, we would just add the words in front of motion to say that the
Above?
monitoring and recording of stormwater flow motion, so that, so it can stand by itself.
Yeah. Okay. All right, just council clear on that? It's basically my motion that's above, it would be inserted into the motion and then what we're discussing right now. So Councillor.
Okay, I'm point of clarification. I'm confused. So if you could explain it back to me.
I'll just read it as it should be. So it should be that the motion that the District of Lantzville start the monitoring and recording of stormwater flow at Jacks Road and Huddlestone Outfall, or Huddlestone Road Outfalls, be referred to, and then the rest of the motion to staff to provide cost estimates for equipment, hydrologists, and continuous testing. So, Councillor Gusbrecht, go ahead.
Yeah, point of order. There's only one motion that's on the floor, and it's not the one that starts with therefore be it resolved. You, the mayor, read the staff recommendation. It apparently, the amendments passed, but that's the only motion that's before us. And I don't know what it,
Okay,
refers
so,
to. I mean.
Yeah, your point of order is noted, Councillor Gusbrecht, and you're very much correct. The way it's being done isn't totally clear. I think Director Coates understand, Director Coates is just trying to make it more standalone official. I think, I'm hoping majority of council understands that the motion that is basically starts as therefore, be it resolved that, is what's being referred in the staff recommendation. As long as
It's not the motion on the floor.
Oh, I understand that. Okay.
So unless there's an amendment to put that all in, it's not part of what we're voting on, the record.
Yeah.
So I don't know how you're going to fix this, but I'm all ears.
All right, so, again, I can just make the amendment that in the motion that we have right now, it just says that the motion be referred to. So the motion that it's being referred to, insert the above motion. I can read it all out, unless Director Coates, you want to.
Sorry, it's hard because you have to picture this motion being in a letter or someplace else. And if we said the above motion, it wouldn't have
I understand.
standalone. So if we put that it's the motion from item 12D, E?
Yeah.
But it's not a motion, it's a recommendation, that the recommendation from item 12E be referred.
Okay, so I'll just make that amendment so it's perfectly clear, so that the recommendation, it would be to delete the motion, so after the word that, the motion, delete that, and to insert the recommendation from 12E, and that's it. Does that work, Director Coates? And I can read that back for council. So the new motion would read, if amended, that the recommendation for 12E be referred to staff to provide cost estimates for equipment, hydrologists, and continuous testing.
Yeah. From April 20th, 2022, 12E, yes.
Okay. All right, so is there a seconder, or we can do that by unanimous consent? Well, we'll do it officially, I suppose. So, second by Councillor Savage. And for discussion, so Councillor Gusselbrecht, go ahead.
Yeah, unless somebody reads to me what I'm voting on, I don't understand.
That the motion be amended by striking the word motion and inserting recommendation from April 20th, 2022, 12E. To read, if it passes, that the recommendation from April 20th, 2022, 12E be referred to staff to provide cost estimates for equipment, hydrologist, and continuous testing.
What recommendation from April 20th? I
It's
don't
right,
see
it's
that
right
on
above.
on this agenda at
It's
all.
right above, it is on the agenda. It says, item 12E, Mayor Swain's recommendation. And so right above the page that you're on now, page 4, where it says therefore be it the recommendation is therefore be it resolved that the District of Lantzville start the monitoring and recording of stormwater flows at Jacks Road and Huddlestone Road outfalls. So
I heard April 28th in there.
April 20th, 2022, this is this agenda. So to make it stand alone so that if someone took this motion and they knew, they would know what motion is being referred. If it just says that the motion be referred and it's not with the minutes, no one would know what motion it is.
Exactly.
So that's why the recommendation or the amendment motion is to strike the word motion and insert recommendation from April 20th, 2022, 12E. Because what's above it is not a motion yet. It was not moved and seconded. It's a recommendation.
I'm really sorry. I mean, I think I know what the mayor is getting at, but we jumped to a staff recommendation. Now you're saying instead of putting in what was the actual motion above, that it's now a recommendation, but so I take it that we're going to be asked to vote on this whole whatever it is now, and what I'm asking is that somebody read to me exactly what I'm going to be voting on.
So if I may, Director Coates, I think the cleanest way of doing this is that by unanimous consent, we withdraw the motion that's on the floor as amended. And so I will just simply, and just trust me here, I think this will be the most effective way of dealing with this, and then we'll just work our way back into this. So,
Which motion are we?
so the motion that's on the floor right now as amended is that the motion be referred to staff to provide cost estimates for equipment, hydrologists, and continuous testing. That's the motion that's on the floor as amended. So what I'm recommending to council is by unanimous consent, we withdraw that motion completely.
All right.
So by unanimous consent to withdraw the motion as amended. Is there any objections? Okay, hearing none, the motion is withdrawn. So I'll simply start over. So I'm going to make the motion now. Therefore, be it resolved that the District of Lantzville start the monitoring and recording of stormwater flow at Jacks Road and Huddlestone Road outfalls. Do I have a seconder to that? So seconded by Councillor Savage. Now, at this point, I'll just do the motion to refer now. So I'm doing a referral motion. And this is the way, honestly, I should have done it right from the get-go. I'm sorry to have created so much confusion. So I am simply making the referral at this point to staff to provide a cost estimate for equipment, hydrologist, and continuous testing. So referring the motion that's on the floor right now, that's being moved and seconded, back to staff. Does that work, Director Coates? Yes. Okay, so do I have a seconder for the referral motion? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All right, so seconded by Councillor Gusselbrack? No? Okay, do we have a seconder to the referral? Okay, seconded by Councillor Wilson, I think. Sorry, yep, okay. And discussion on the referral motion. So Councillor Gusselbrack?
So the motion, which is above, therefore be resolved, continues with the staff recommendation as you've read, which takes out financial planning process.
That's correct, yes.
All right, so that's a motion right now.
Well, the motion right now is simply just to refer it to staff. Nothing's, so the motion above that has been moved and seconded. That just stays on its own. It's not passing or failing at this point. It just means that that motion's been referred on to staff to get more information to deal with that motion.
Well, if you include the second part, I will support it. But I don't want to support the first one unless we have the second one. So maybe you want to just add that as an amendment to the first motion.
I'm unclear about what.
So the first motion just sits there. It will sit there until staff brings back their report. And so it's like a referral motion. So the motion's on the floor that the District of Lantzville start the monitoring and recording of stormwater at Jacks Road and Huddlestone Road outfalls. You're not voting on that. There's a new motion that's come after that to refer it. And so that motion, the one that's on the floor now is that the motion, meaning that one I just said, is referred to staff to provide cost estimates for equipment, hydrologist, and continuous testing. So you're not voting on the other motion until staff brings back more information.
Additional questions, debate, before I move to calling the question? Okay. Hearing none, I will move to calling the question on the referral motion. So all those in favor of the referral and opposed, okay, that's carried unanimously. Sorry, I should have stick handled that one better right from the get-go. My apologies. Through to council, the next and last motion, I believe, is Lantzville School Road motion. This is my recommendation. There's a bunch of whereas clauses. I'll just move to the motion that a moratorium on future development of the Lantzville Road right-of-way for road network expansion be placed on the remaining undeveloped section of Lantzville School Road. Is there a seconder to this motion? So second by Councillor Savage. The whereas clauses, I believe, are pretty self-explanatory. I've included in the agenda this evening, there's a couple maps for council's reference. On page 79, it just shows in that red box the section that I'm referring to. So it's basically the section that divides the school from the playing field, or the school building from the playing field. Basically, this moratorium would still allow for the construction of a trail. So if a future trail goes between Village South and Village West special planning areas, it would not interfere with that. And ultimately, it would inform any future development processes of the significance of that area, similar to other developments. So citing really the foothills and special interest points, areas that unless you're a Lantzville resident, you may not be aware of the significance of those areas. So ultimately, it's yes, the moratorium is on district-owned land, that council ultimately is in charge of. But again, the intent of this is to inform anybody who basically wants to start planning that area of what the council of the day thinks should be happening in that area. So that's pretty straightforward. So to the seconder, and then I'll open it up to the rest of the council.
Yes, thank you. For me, it's just the safety issue is obvious. Young kids now running out for recess. They're so excited they'd have to cross traffic to play on the lower field. And the other thing is, unlikely it as is, I never like being dramatic or exaggerating things, but sincerely, if I had a kid at school, it would be on my mind if they were really young. And that's just simply this, that now any stranger could now drive right through the schoolyard. And perhaps one day, I completely admit it's highly unlikely, but something parents worry about, perhaps one day one of those strangers could be a predator driving a stolen van, blocking the view of the lower field from the school. And I just hearken to this rare event we had on Dickinson Road with the attempted abduction and assaulting that woman with a rubber mallet and trying to haul her into the car and so on. It's just something that I like the way Seaview is now, that it's so safe, so enclosed, and I would just hate introducing this element of having anonymous traffic going through, cutting basically the school in half, going right through the heart of the school. And also, there's nothing preventing this becoming a short trek for all the Lantzville Road traffic to avoid the village and going directly to Ware Road than the highway. So I just think the best flavor of Seaview is to leave it as a no-through road, so the entire property is enclosed, and there's a little bit more monitoring of who's coming and going. If there's only one entrance, I think is the key as well. So anyway, those are my thoughts. I think it's pretty well, don't need much thinking on it. I know that for most parents at Seaview, they would not want to see the road go through, that's for sure. So I think we're just doing something that represents, that's the most important constituency we should be listening to, are parents that have kids at Seaview School. And I'm sure it'd be pretty unanimous that they would not want the road going through. And I've talked to others that feel the same way at earlier times. So anyway, thank you.
Yeah, through the chair to Councillor Savage, are we talking about a road that's there now that people are driving on?
It's a right-of-way that goes from School Road that ends right at the parking lot now. There's actually a district right-of-way that carries on all the way through the school property to join up with the potential road through the parkland on Village South. So when you saw the, I have it right here. So when you look at this area here, there's a road that goes from here, a dotted road, and it ends up right there, and there's the school property road.
All right, so Councillor Savage, I'm gonna have to interrupt you. Noting the time, it's basically almost 9:30, so by unanimous consent of council to extend the meeting past 9:30. If we have, this is our last item that we're on, it's really to the will of council. So by unanimous consent to extend beyond 9:30. So is that an objection?
I have an objection. I'm just having trouble conceptualizing what this road is. So if it goes on to the next meeting, then we'll have a chance to discuss it some
All
more.
right, so I'll take that as an objection then. So we'll move to item 16 of our agenda. So adjournment, so we'll need to make a motion. So I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Pardon me, I'm sorry. Could we just,
You've objected?
I'm going to withdraw my objection,
Okay.
okay? And I'll just indicate that I can accept this.
Okay.
So if we could take
All
a
right, so
quick
it's
vote.
being withdrawn. So so basically we have unanimous consent of council to continue past 9:30. We can put a limit on it that we will not exceed.
I'd just like to call the question.
Okay. So unless there's anything further, we can move to calling the question. Just giving everybody an opportunity to speak. Okay, so I'll move to calling the question. All those in favor and opposed?
Sorry, what are we voting on?
So we're voting on the motion, which is that a moratorium on the future development of Lantzville School Road right away for road network expansion be placed on the remaining undeveloped section of Lantzville School Road. So essentially, it's a section of road right away that is between Lantzville school buildings.
Yeah, I understand, and I know where the road goes. But I with right now, like I'm with the last motion taking so long, I'm in a place where like this is something generally that I could support, having kids that go to the school. But I'd like to just take some more time to process this and then deal with this on the next meeting. So I'm not willing to unanimously extend the meeting because I want more time to flesh this one out.
That's come and gone, Councillor Wilson. So what I would suggest at this point is if you wish to refer this motion to the next meeting, we can do that. So that would be to the May 4th.
Well, just point of privilege. I didn't vote to extend the meeting past 9:30.
Well, I asked for objections and nobody objected. Well, actually, the only person that objected was Councillor Gusselbrack, and then he withdrew his objection. So what I'd recommend is the cleanest way of just moving forward is let's refer this to the next meeting if that's what you wish. And
yeah, please and thanks.
Okay, so that Councillor Wilson's making I'll just simply make the referral motion to the May 4th regular meeting of council. Is that seconded by who? Anybody want to second that? Seconded by Councillor Savage. Any discussion? Hearing, seeing none. I'll call the question on the referral motion. All those in favor and opposed? Okay, that's carried unanimously. So that's being referred off to the May.
I object.
Oh, you object to the referral? Oh, sorry, I thought your hand was up.
Objecting too.
Nope, I'm in favor of the referral. Because Councillor Wilson, would like to end the meeting. That's okay. I respect that. So any late items to introduce? Okay, hearing and seeing none. And any notices of motion? Hearing or seeing none. Moving on. Public clarification. Anybody registered? Okay, hearing none. We've made it through our agenda, so I declare the meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for your patience.